Thank you for joining us for our fourth speaker series, There Aren't Any Asian Creatives in Ottawa, and we scratch out There Aren't Any. I would like to thank the Digital Arts Resource Center for their partnership on the speaker series. There's a chat box and a Q&A box that you can write your questions in, and we'll be monitoring those, and we will go through them at the end. Before we begin, on behalf of Digi60, we would like to acknowledge that the land on which we are on is on the traditional unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. Please take a moment to learn about the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation and to learn about their history, concerns, and work as a community. We believe that the path to reconciliation includes learning and understanding these concerns directly from them, as well as a concerted effort for settlers and the government to make an active work towards righting the historical injustices that have faced First Nations people. Our moderator today is my co-producer for the speaker series, Hingmin Lung. Hingmin Lung is an independent filmmaker based in Ottawa. She is the creative director of 613 TV, the ultra-local content creation arm of arts and culture blog Apartment 613. Her film work has been featured at multiple local and Canadian film festivals, and her latest film, Curbside Pickup, won Best Film, Best Director, and Emerging Filmmaker awards at last year's Digi60 Film Festival. So take it away, Hingmin.
Thank you very much, Mesa. So I'm Hingmin Lung, and I'm so excited to have brought together three great people that I've had the chance to work with, had the chance to kind of talk to, and who are out in the community doing cool stuff. So I can't wait to have everyone get to know them. And the first thing I'm going to do is actually introduce them. And then they're gonna each, tell us a little bit about themselves and how they got here. So first we have Gabriella Warrior-Renaud, who is a documentary filmmaker who uses her practice to explore themes around race and identity. She's also a communications professional advocating for climate action in agriculture. Next, we have Mylene K. Briggs, who is an artist, small business owner of Killam Media, and co-founder of two arts-based nonprofits, Art in Action and Inner Tongues. And last but not least, Brian Tong is a professional dancer turned freelancer who now operates a boutique media production agency, Studio 79E. And without further ado, I'm gonna ask Gabby to take it away to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what makes you tick, and what you do in the creative arts.
Thanks, Eamon. It's really great to join you all and have a discussion. I feel like it's a rare treat to be able to chat about being creative these days. So I'm really grateful for this little evening we're having. My name is Gabby. I am a documentary filmmaker. I grew up in Gatineau, Quebec, and have been living in Ottawa for, I think, a little over 10 years now. In my day job, I'm a communications and marketing professional. I currently work in a nonprofit advocating for climate action in agriculture, working with farmers. What brought me here? I mean, I guess I grew up in a mixed race family on the Gatineau side. My father is a white Quebecer. My mom is Indian British. She immigrated to Canada. So growing up as an only kid in a sort of French language speaking, very white and suburban neighborhood of Gatineau, I think a lot of my art practice comes from that, desire to like unpack and process my own identity. But I also see a lot of links between my artistic practice and my communications, marketing practice, professional work that we can talk a little bit about later. And I'm just happy to be here and chat with you three.
Awesome. Mylene is next. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mylene. My pronouns are she and her. I am on traditional and unceded Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I am an artist, first and foremost. A entrepreneur. I co-founded also two arts-based nonprofits, like Hingman mentioned, Art in Action Ottawa and Inner Tongues, which is a poetry and art series. I'm also a filmmaker. I'm a mother of one very energetic child. In my day job, I'm also a communications and marketing director for the Social Planning Council of Ottawa. And I primarily in my work with Killam Media, which is my small business that I've been running since 2013, since like my child was a year old. I primarily focus on branding and marketing and accessible web content. What else? That's kind of me in a nutshell, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. Don't worry, we'll go deeper in the next in the next hour. Thank you. Next, we'll have Brian introduce yourself, please.
Hey, and name's Brian, and you probably heard professional dancer, not that type, but there's a story once upon a time. That led to a very fruitful opportunity, and which led me to my love for filmmaking afterwards, because someone needed to document it or else it didn't happen. So I am now a boutique media agency co-owner, actually. I do this with my brother. And we have way too much fun just filming. And whether it be on a phone or a old camera from the dollar store or something, and like you just gotta create, and you gotta find that as an outlet, as a place to kind of let go of any troubles, issues, any stress. That's like the best outlet. So my story comes from just from the inside and out. So that's where we're gonna start with that.
Thank you. We're going to progressively get into like harder and harder questions. So get ready. So the first thing that I want to ask you all to share is kind of your journey in being a creative and defining yourself, because for a lot of people who live hyphenated lives, which I think all of you do, it's a journey, and it's a never-ending journey. So I want to ask you about, the moment when you decided or realized that you are creative and you want to do this in your life. How did that happen? And what was that like? So wonder who wants to go first? Who's ready?
Gabby.
Okay, let's go with Gabby. Thank you for volunteering her.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I'll go back to a little bit about what I talked about in the intro of, growing up in a mixed race family. I think that really, my work is based around this, and I've kind of like turned it into life's work, really exploring those themes around mixed race identity, and sort of the idea of multiculturalism in Canada and kind of unpacking that. I don't know. I think the moment where I kind of decided to dive in, I was working as a communications professional with an agency, like a really great job right after my undergrad, and had this like inside voice of like, I think you want to make a documentary, and I think you want to do it about being mixed race in Canada. So I like quit my job and drove across the country and just like took it in and decided to jump into filmmaking full time. Quickly realized that I needed a side job to like help me pay my rent and buy me some food and all those necessary things in life. So I did for a while there, for like a number of years, I was juggling like part-time work, contract work, my artistic practice. And I think I spent a lot of those first few years in Ottawa just building community and building that network. And we can talk a bit about, the Ottawa artistic community and how like loving and supporting it is a little bit later. I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, I think my artistic practice, as I'm sure it's similar to you three, is like really linked directly with my own personal journey. So I learn a lot from my artistic practice that I then bring just, to be a better person, but also in my work. So I find that like sense of connection is always there for me, that like wanting to just become a better person, a better artist, a better communicator. But I think that moment where I just kind of like committed to this practice and was willing to like take a little bit of a risk and just decide to work on this project has opened up like incredible doors for me. And I'm so thankful for the community in Ottawa who's like really supported me through this project over many years.
Wow, that I resonate with that so much, and the part that I really kind of pick up on is the bravery of going for it, of doing stuff that's maybe a bit scary, and so thank you for sharing that. Mylene, what about you?
Okay. So my artistic journey, I feel like it's just a part of me. And it's something that I've always just been like very drawn to ever since I was a child. I was like looking back at some of the things that I found in my memory box, it was like stories that I had written, and like pictures, and like things that I would make for my teddy bear. And so I was like always very, very creative at a young age. And I didn't realize, especially as someone who had like been adopted into like a more white family, that I didn't understand like where that came from until I went back home to the Philippines and reconnected with my family there and realized that all of them are creative. All of them sing, dance, write, make art, take pictures, paint. And I'm like, oh my God, I fit in somewhere. Like I came from something that makes a lot more sense to me. And I really, I started kind of exploring more of that side of me in more depth when I started to suffer a lot from mental health, and really like the intergenerational trauma, and struggling to find my identity. And it started with painting, actually, and I used painting as a way to basically like heal myself. And it was like through painting that I found all of these other artistic like forms, and realized that I wanted to like explore them and create with them and play with them, and like in all of its essence be an artist in all of the ways that I can be. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Brian. Oh, I'm hearing a little bit of echo, but we're all good now. So I saw Brian nodding a lot, Mylene, as you were telling your story. So Brian, let's hear yours.
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, I love the Filipino culture. So artistic. Like, I get called out as a Filipino more so than I am Vietnamese, which is very confusing upbringing. Let me tell you that. Okay, so now I'm going to summarize it. So where I identify as a creator or an artist was in university. I remember this very well. Now, growing up, yes, I was doing art, I was drawing, I was dancing, singing. I didn't know what that was. I thought it was movement. I thought it was being a kid. But it was second year university. I got kicked out because I was amongst street dance crews. I just conflicted. Am I an academic or am I something? Now, no one in my family or my surrounding or nurturing environment tells that you're allowed to be an artist. I didn't know what that word at all. So what does that mean? So I got lost. So I got kicked out of university, and I was super depressed. And this is the moment. Let me tell you, this is the moment. I just wanted to dance. That's all I knew I wanted to do. My brother saw how desperately like I wanted to expand, and I had to make a promise to my family that I would never dance again. So I had a street name so that my name would not get out in the public. My brother gave me a ticket to Toronto. It was a one-way ticket, no questions asked. I probably had $20 in my pocket. I wanted to take one dance class just for myself, just like I have no idea. I just want to do it for myself. And it was for a dance class with my favorite singer of Canada. No shame, Sean Desmond. Shout outs. Okay, so, and I went, took the plane, the train, and my friend was supposed to host me, and he couldn't. He just couldn't. He didn't answer the phone, and my phone died, and I forgot the charger. It was ridiculous. And I just remember looking at my pocket at that point. I only had $5 for food and $15 for the class. So I went to Tim Hortons, bought the $5, sat outside with a homeless man and ate. And I just realized like I got nowhere to go. Everyone's so far away and I have no access, and I'm very shameful. So I slept in front of the theater. I slept in front of the theater with the mindset saying, if I'm gonna wake up dreaming, or if I'm gonna go to sleep dreaming about the theater and wake up in a theater, maybe that's the mentality I want to have. That's exactly what happened. So around 3:00, friend, somehow the phone just came alive, and then just whoop. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I got a taxi ready for you. Please come. 3:30 in the morning, brought in, went to the dance class, changed my life. That moment, I realized I was willing to sacrifice my sleep, my health, everything, just to dance. And that was the moment I realized I identify as a creator. And that's my story. Emotions.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it. And now Sean Desmond's crew is like my closest friends with this ridiculous thing ever. Yeah.
It's just so inspiring hearing all of your stories and hearing how you've all kind of like believed in yourselves and gone after the thing that was maybe scary, not stable, and you don't know what's going to happen in the future, but going for it. That's super inspiring, and it makes me think about, you know, when I was first starting out, like if I had mentors, if I had people to look up to who could tell me like that things were going to work out, that you just have to dive in. I think that would have gotten me started way earlier, because I kind of started in my creative life, you know, in my 30s. And for a lot of people, that's like, it's easy to compare, right? And I look at all these young people out there who are making waves, and sometimes I'm like, oh, like if I had started earlier, what would be different? But it's not super healthy to go down that path. And one of the things that I wanted to do with this group of amazing people who have achieved so much and still going places is to collectively bring together that wisdom and that advice. So if you were to go back in time and give yourself the advice that you needed to push yourself further, to get started, what would be the thing that you would tell yourself at that time? I feel like, Brian, you should go first.
Oh my gosh. I will tell I thought about this one. Because a lot of people ask me, and it's always the same answer. Trust me, dude, little guy, it's worth the cry. It's worth the tears. It's worth the heartbreaks. It's worth being alone. It's worth being lost. It's worth going endlessly in the streets and trying to find your tribe. It's worth all the pain that you don't deserve, but will come back at the end. It's gonna make sense, because nothing made sense growing up, because it didn't align to you as an artist. No one's an artist. You're in a city where artists is rare to find at that time, at least for me. So you're gonna uncover, you're gonna find your light, and that light is just not giving up, because you just refuse to believe that you're anything less. And when all that goes through, all the storm will come over, you're gonna find this light, and this light is gonna be your identity. And when you embrace it, it's gonna come so strong, and everyone's gonna see your value, and everything that you have always trying to make sense of will finally align. So it's gonna get better. That's it. That's what I'll tell little Brian.
Yes, we are all like healing ourselves right now, like talking to our younger selves.
Mhm. I want to meet little Brian.
He's lost. Just so lost. Yeah.
Mylene, why don't you go next?
Oh man. Okay. This whole time I was thinking one of the things I would tell myself back then is to not care so much about boys or like relationships. Like, why am I stressing out about that? Like the amount of time I've wasted, like thinking that the path to happiness was to be in a relationship, or, at that time, even when I was younger, I was like exploring, right? So that is one of them. The other thing I would tell my younger self is to remember that all good things come with hard work, and that you are going to, like, even if you've reached your dream, that dream is going to come with drudgery. Like, you're going to sludge through some of the worst things, and you're going to want to give up, and you're not going to think that any of this is like going to get you anywhere. But if I think of it as like a painting, like one paint stroke at a time, and halfway through the painting, it's going to look like the biggest garbage pile of, that you've ever created. And if you can just push through that, like get over that hump, it'll be a piece of art at the end. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm like madly writing all this down to be like adages to put on my wall. Gabby, what about you?
I mean, I'm thinking a little bit about the really great opportunities I've had in the last few years to start mentoring some artists in Ottawa. I really love working with other artists at the start of their practice, because I get to sort of take a step back from my own work and like look at like what would I have liked to receive as advice at that stage. And I also really want to remind myself throughout my process that people have like forged a path for us to be able to continue this. And that there's so many people who have, like dug spaces out of collective dialogue so that we can have these kinds of conversations. And I really I think my work tries to honor like a lot of that. And I think a big thing for me has just been to accept help and to accept advice coming from all sorts of places. I think and maybe this is because I grew up as an only child, but like having full control over my pieces has been something that I've really struggled to like let go of. I'm very controlling of the work that I do, especially for this last project that I've been working on. That's the documentary about mixed race people. Like I've been involved in all the stages of it to the point of like burning out really, and having to take a step back from it because there's that emotional labor part of the work that I do that I need to I need to think about it before I take it on. Like it has to be conscious. So I think all those pieces, like, being patient, taking advice, like understanding that there are people who have the skills and you just need to like look for them and ask them for advice, because I think as creatives, we're always just happy to share what we know. If we can make, somebody's path a little bit easier than our own, I think we're like filled with that generosity as people. So just kind of, gifting that forward is always a mentality that I have.
Yes, I see Mylene is snapping, Brian snapping. We're all, I think, Gabby, what you just said really ties back to one of the initial things that you said about community building and how important it is in our communities to support each other and to create spaces for each other. No matter if we're talking about the filmmaking community or the Asian community or the LGBTQ community or disability community. It's like all of these intersect in Ottawa, in our city, and they're all important, and they're all and even some communities that I don't know about. So it really resonates, and it really is about, to me, it's really why I want to work on representation and fostering more representation in media, and why we're doing this series. And so usually we don't do Q&As till the end, but one question came in that I think has, can really feed into this conversation that I want to have with you all. So I'm gonna read it out loud. So Hollywood has a history of hidden hate and stereotypes in films and TV shows like Austin Powers, Family Guy, and Breakfast at Tiffany's. Even though we're seeing more representation on screen, do you think the industry is doing a good job to eliminate problematic stereotypes? And I'll add to it, if they are, if you've seen good solutions, what are they? Let's give props where it's due.
I mean, I'm happy to answer this. That I kind of want to take like a personal approach, if that's okay. I sort of see my work in documentary filmmaking and then my work as a communications marketing professional. And this doesn't speak to the film industry, but I think it speaks to like capitalism, other kinds of industry that we all, live in. Like, I think a lot of people are, like I said before, are like forging a different path and building new conversations. So I think us as artists or conscious citizens need to do our best to like kind of turn our heads to the other side of things and like amplify those conversations that we find really interesting. And part of my work in those two worlds is like to continue to bring what I've learned in my documentary filmmaking and bringing it into my professional work, because it's really important to understand, the power of language, representation, inclusive language. Like all those things are so important to start shifting this like more mainstream dialogue. Like what you're posting on your organization's social media is important. Like it does matter, and it does affect how we start to like either build up stereotypes or tear them down. So I think there's a lot of good stuff happening in the industry right now, and we need, having access to those opportunities, like job opportunities for people like us who are kind of changing the way we're discussing things, is really important. And it's like encouraging those companies or organizations who are having this kind of approach, who are taking this approach, to really support those folks and to look for those opportunities for yourself. And if there aren't any, to like continue to do, I think what you're doing, Heyman, is like continuing to like create those opportunities for those kinds of dialogues.
And every time we do this, like I learn so much, and there's so much that I still don't know. And I really, and that's what keeps me going in terms of like continuing to create these spaces, continuing to open it up and open myself up to learn as well. So does anyone else have any reflections to share about, representation in media? Mylene?
Oh, I just want to echo actually what Gabby was saying, because all of this, it is incredibly important, especially as people who are content creators. Like it is our obligation almost in a way to be putting content or putting, imagery or language or messaging out there that is, representing sort of our own backgrounds, but also in a way pulling people into conversations that they can have safely. When you see yourself, like we all know this, right? When you see yourself somewhere, when you see yourself being represented on screen or even in a magazine, you immediately feel connected, and you also immediately feel like you can do it too. Like they can do it, I can do it, and I'm not going to be as scared. So I definitely agree with you, Gabby.
I want to just add one more thing if I can. I read this book recently, and it, like, our conversation is just bringing that to my mind. I read a book by, I think their name is Kelly Small. It's called The Conscious Creative, and they're an author, designer, and this book kind of, they bring forward this like code of conduct for creators to use. And it's kind of like a framework in the same way that like engineers and doctors use to like commit to doing their work with care. And I think when you're a creator, like it's so subjective to yourself, and you know, you can get stuck in like tropes and reinforce stereotypes without even knowing it. So it was really important for me to like do this extra work. And this book was, I found a really great tool to just highlight lots of different ways that you can be a little bit more conscious when you're creating content. So I would definitely recommend it. I got it at the Ottawa Library, so I know that we have a copy available for free for folks to read.
Shout out to a public library.
Yes.
Shout outs. Oh, that's space, man.
Brian, what about you?
Can you repeat the question one more time? Because now I'm dived into the conversation with the other host. That's why.
Feel free to like, you know, respond to what you just heard. Mostly the question was about representation in media. What are we seeing? Are there any changes?
I'm seeing it already. I let's be honest. I told you, I laughed. Yeah, like the representation was not out there at all. Like I didn't identify with any of the Asians, especially Mean Girls, who was a Vietnamese girl. Like that, there's no way. First off, the name, it goes on. We know that. I mean, but recently, I think I got really emotional when I started seeing that we no longer need to go to the upper office heads anymore and go straight to the right agencies to deliver to networks like Netflix and Crave, which is amazing. So we have these brand new opportunities, like she was saying. We got to create like these doors are open. We got to go and take it. And I'm watching Netflix. There's like so many beautiful shows that are well represented. Some of them are over exaggerated, but within our culture too, that we're like, yeah, okay, I see where they were going. That was very over exaggerated. That's funny as hell for us, right? Like superstitious, like being superstitious is so deep rooted in our Asian culture. And to watch that on the screen, he's like, I connect with that. So I've been seeing a huge change. Shout outs to Aquafina. That's like one of my favorite actors. And like I watched Doom and Doom 2. I know that's confusing for a lot of people in the South Asian. They're like, what? And it's becoming more and more like prominent in the film world. But we need more of it. We definitely need more of it. But when I was reading up on these representations, I saw that it was being produced by the Asian community. I'm like, man, if there's just this collective of understanding this inclusiveness of like just wanting to learn about other cultures and then having all sorts of people working on it, like it would have been a beautiful production, but it has to be backed by a certain culture. It has to be backed by a certain group of people, which sucks. I find that it's almost like it's like you're on a soapbox and you can only do so much. You know what I mean? So for me, I feel like it's starting to change because we're finally having the capital. We're finally having the knowledge. We're finally having the seat and the table to make the decisions, and things are adjusting ever so slowly, but we're going to make bigger noise for sure. At least that's my thought.
I love this like concept that we're now like reclaiming our media space as people, and you get to like curate what you watch and what you want to watch too. And it's like a really cool feedback loop of, you know, people are like amplifying these kinds of projects, and then more funding is being funneled into it. So like we need to keep this kind of thing going.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Completely concur. Yeah. So, I mean, like we're in the forefront right now and we're still fighting for it. We're going to kick those doors down. So we got to keep that energy up. So we got to give our flowers where it's due. So everyone, good job for being where we are right now, but keep doing it. We got more water to plant, you know, to water out the seeds.
Yeah. High fives to everyone.
I agree.
So to Brian's question of like, hold on one second. Okay. So for Brian's question of like getting more of this, getting more of us out there, bringing it back to Ottawa, how do we do that? What do you think about when you're working in Ottawa about representation? How do we continue to foster community as we're working in the space, whether it's in communications or dance or filmmaking? What are some specific things that we want to see more of?
This me? My thoughts?
Oh, everyone. Who wants to go first? Who's like got something that they really, really just this is the one solution that we need.
Oh, I don't know if there's one solution, but I think, we're all here. Like, there is a really beautiful, vibrant, and diverse community in Ottawa. I think the community here is super collaborative and supportive of each other. Like, I love how we just kind of are cheering each other on, and that it goes across disciplines. I think we just need to continue pushing at the city, at provincial levels, to get more funding for these kinds of programs, because we are out there doing the work. I think we just need a bit more funding, a bit more resources, like spaces, equipment, those kinds of things. So I think if you as a person want to see more vibrant art in Ottawa, I think you can take that role and commit to pushing your local government to increase funding for these kinds of programs. I mean, we've seen arts funding go up and down through, depending on what kind of government we have. So, and I think if anything during the pandemic, we have relied and depended on our arts to keep us going. I know that I am so thankful for my friends who have continued to create, because I have lost my creative drive over the last year. So I'm so thankful for people who've continued to do it, because, oh my gosh, I have needed to see these beautiful signs across the city, really fun videos, short films, music, this kind of keeps us going. So we need to commit to bringing those kinds of resources to artists.
What do I want to see more of? This is a tricky one, because I feel like I want to see more of everything. More dancing, more stories, more spaces where people are unafraid and unapologetic about telling their stories in the way that's meaningful to them. I definitely would love to see more of that. And I feel like I also really want to see more of an even and equal distribution of money, where we're not all clamoring for this 5 grants out there and everyone's elbowing each other, oh my god. I feel like we're just at this, I don't know, this stage where we're this bag of money has been thrown out to the wild, and we're all hungry for it. Why are we so hungry? Why? It's we've been starving for so long. And it's this, don't get me wrong, I love competition. I'm very keen on a very constructive, inspirational type of competition, but not this I need to one up this person, or let me see where my project can go so that I look really good. That kind of thing I want to see less of, and more of we're all fed, and we're all feeling like we can create in a way that's truthful and honest and authentic to ourselves, without having to step on someone else. Mm-hmm.
Love
Let's
that.
go. Let's go.
Brian, what about you? What's your want to see more of?
Oh, there's this pent up energy. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Okay. Ooh. Okay. I'm gonna start with 2 things. Hold up. My family's probably being as Asian right now, being loud. You can hear them. Y'all done? Wait. Okay, so that's my family, ladies and gentlemen. That is as Asian as it gets, right there. Now I thought this really hard, and I forgot the first word I had, but the second word is to be loud. It's to be hella loud. Oh, and I know the first one. There's two rules. I broke it down. Is to treat being cultured as a norm, and being hella loud. Those are the 2. Why do I break it down like that? Let's put it this way. To make it more flourished for the community, I feel like it has to be so normal to be cultured. When it's yo, you got some chopsticks, just go through. And people are I want to have forks. Well, next time bring chopsticks. And just go through. I want this language to be super normal. It's like, hey, don't wear white. It's very sensitive because, you know, it's someone just passed away. That's not really something you want to wear. I didn't know that. Well, now you know. Now you're amongst, you know, Vietnamese and Chinese people. Come on, I'll show you. I'll tell you everything. We need to educate. We need to make it normal. You know, we got to make it so that it's not like, oh, you didn't know. More like, hey, you're going to know. You know, once you go ahead and make it a norm, people are going to be like, okay, now I'm starting to get it. Now I'm going to go to Chinese New Year. Now I'm going to go and celebrate, you know, Eid with certain people, and I'm going to go celebrate like Irish culture the real authentic way. So like by creating being cultured as a norm would start changing the scope of how people perceive ourselves. And then that's why projects then is going to be like, oh, I understand where this is going. It's going to go bigger. Oh, now I understand this path is actually going to go this way because I'm educated in this one now. I'm going to go forth with that, right? So I feel like you gotta just keep educating, talk to these languages as a norm, and say, hey, this is the way we do it. It's just you get it, or you don't get it, you know. So let me help you so you understand. So it's like me. This took me to public school to learn about fasting. It's so normal because everyone in the public school understood what fasting was. So I became a norm of that culture. Be like, oh, you guys are fasting? Cool. I'll be with you guys. I'm not going to be inconsiderate and eat in front of you. Like, it's just like, it's a thing. It became normal. If only the world works like that. And you know what? It will, because we're going to be too loud. That's what we're going to be. We're going to be loud in our success. We're going to be loud in our money. We're going to be loud in our arts. We're going to be loud in front of every conferences. We're going to be loud. Just do and stick our own lane, and to a point that they can't ignore us. Yeah, and like you were saying about the $5,000 bag, I'm the kind of person that was raised with lie, cheat, and steal. I was in drug dealing background. Like, I'll tell you straight up, I'm not even shy about it. I'm from Chinatown. I've seen it, right? It's hard to get away from it. And then what are you going to do when you don't have money? You get money. How are you going to get money? The rich. How are you going to get the rich? Tell them what they have and say what they need. And then what are you going to do about it? You're going to just hang out a price, because everyone has a price. This is what we were raised with in the streets. And what happens when you take the bag? You feed everyone who needs to eat. That's why we need to be loud. We got to be loud in all of our efforts, and to a point that, like, the money is distributed everywhere. I will never have to beg. I will make sure that you guys have a reason to give. So that's where I'm coming in with this. I'm super passionate about it. And that's why I do what I do. I feel like I'm a lone wolf using a cell phone to edit and film. Sure. Why? Because I can, and I will. You don't have to tell me that's not the way of a filmmaker. I don't have an ND filter or an SD. Like, I'm gonna do it. What are you gonna do? And then landed me most craziest of life projects. So like, as you can see, I'm very passionate about it. I think that we should go back, treat being cultured as a norm, speak the language as if it's a norm, and be super loud in all your success, your dreams, your vision, and just do what you need to do.
I love what you're saying.
Yeah.
Brian. Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like
Also, now I have the song in my head.
Oh,
Let's
cool.
get loud.
Jennifer Lopez, you know? See? We know what it is. But can you imagine saying that to someone from Carpus? Like, let's get loud by Jennifer. Who's Jennifer Lopez? Like, your heart breaks. And then you're like, you gotta know Selena. Okay. So that does, again, see, that brings back to me, like, it should be normal. And that's my spiel.
I'm just so inspired. Like, I could listen to you all kind of converse forever. Because and I think about what you just said about being loud, right? Like, I'm Chinese, and like, I have been brought up to, like, just not stick out and not like, don't be loud. But what has really gotten me to learn to be a little bit louder, and to stand out more, is seeing other people be loud. And so I resonate 100% with what you're saying, and what we've been saying all along is, like, the community aspect and being loud and being not afraid to be who we are. That it's so important. It's so important to not be afraid to show it. so I am like, you all inspire me so much, and I'm just so glad that we are all here to be loud together.
Yes.
This is so
Yes.
amazing. Yeah. And so, we're kind of coming to the last 15 minutes of our chat, and this is when we usually open it up to Q's and A's. But before I do that, would you like to ask each other a question? Do you have any Q&As for each other?
Ooh, I mean, Brian, your last answer got my brain going a lot. I feel like it brought up a lot of the themes that I work on in my film about being mixed race and about the sort of otherness of identity. And, I like that idea of like being proud of being cultured, like making that a norm. I think that's really hard when you live in kind of the margins. I've definitely through this like panel felt like, you're all like super supportive, and I've been fighting my own, like, am I Asian enough to be in this panel? Like even when you first asked me to be part of this, because that's been something that, has been a part of my journey of, accepting myself and going through that. So, so much just, resonated with me of what you were saying. I think it's really representative of how Canada functions and like what kind of racism comes out of that, because we're still operating in this like dominant culture where like using chopsticks is not the default anywhere, and those kinds of things. I love this cameo right now.
Cameo. We're using terms. Let's go.
Love it. But yeah, I really appreciate that conversation because I think it speaks to, the wider issue of like what we all kind of live in, like this multicultural country, and how we're kind of all navigating it in our own way and finding, oh my gosh, just like still feeling like an other in a space that we're supposed to be celebrated, but it's like totally not the case. So yeah, I'm sure we would have lots of conversations in the future about this. I like need to like process this, talk a little bit more.
I think we all relate to that, being ethnic in a westernized North American world. Like, how are you supposed to identify that? When I thought having a hot meal at a lunch break with a ginormous bowl of soup and everyone has a sandwich, you're like, what? I think we all relate. Like, just for fun. Where was that experience? Did you all have that experience where at lunchtime you're like, man, this is weird?
Marlene, you can go ahead.
I was just gonna say like Filipinos, like we eat with our hands, right? And it's like one of those things where like I'm all of a sudden not clean if I'm like eating with my hands. Definitely one of those in the lunchroom where you're like, wow, I am different. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my mom. Sorry, Marlene, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, but I feel like it is like, unfortunately and fortunately, what has made us stronger, So anyway, continue.
No, that's a good point. I'm just remembering like lunches and trying to swap out like whatever I had to like, I don't know, the like chicken parm or like Sunday. That's like, please take my food. I want normal food. And then, you like go through a lot of like self-hate because you're picked on for that kind of stuff. And it kind of takes like growing up and then your friends like asking you like, how do you cook dal? Like, I want to learn, like, these are things that I love to eat. And you're like, oh, this is cool now. Like, this was not cool when I was a kid, but okay. So it's like that script flip later on in your life that you're like, okay, I need a minute to like recenter and like see this as something that I can be proud of. And not because it's now cool, because like it was always cool. And this is something that takes a really long time, I think, if you grow up feeling totally weird.
How did that feel when they asked you to ask you how to cook the dal?
Well, I mean, I have a very strange relationship with my identity. Like, I did not grow up Indian at all, and this is something that I've like reclaimed later on in my life. So it felt weird. Like I definitely have gone through that like imposter syndrome, and I still do. Like I just shared with you all very honestly. So no, I think when people assume that I know these things, like I have this like vivid memory of being a kid in school, and we were talking about India, and like everyone turned and looked at me to like, Gabby, can you answer this question? And I was like, oh my God, I have never been to India. My mom is like so British. That's what I associate her with, that I felt like really ashamed that I didn't know. And I'm like, learning now as an adult and trying to reclaim that for myself, but it's rough. Like I think I deal with a lot of like internal conflict with myself to be like, you are enough. It's not because, you didn't grow up in India or have, I don't know, you're like full Indian, that you're not Indian enough. Like you are all these things, and it's okay to like continue to learn about your culture in your own way. Like it is my own way of being Indian, and I know that. So I'm super proud of having come to that conclusion.
Oh my gosh, I feel you so much right now. Like, it's like one of those things where I may not be like Canadian enough. And then when I go back to the Philippines, I'm not like Filipino enough. And I'm like, what am I? Fine, I'm just going to make my own thing.
Yep.
I'm just going to make my own little like culture, and this is me.
And that brings back to my old point where being culture is the norm. I just identify that as being Canadian, and as it should be. At least I want to say so. To be Canadians, to be fully cultured in all things. And you know what, like Gabby, like that's like to think of that story, and you know what, we all felt it. Trust me, I think we all felt it. I was listening to you, I'm like, yeah, that was me for sure. And God, like. Just see it as like now there's an opportunity. Now there's something to look forward to discover. You know what I'm saying? Now you're like, yo, okay, there's the world out there, and I'm ready, and there's another 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years left for me. Like, let's go, So I'm excited for you. But bring back the good food, though. We hungry out here.
Right. Well, speaking of food, it's almost dinner time. And I'm wondering if we have any other questions. Mesa, who is in the background, are there any other questions that's come in?
No, there's no other questions that come in, but I can ask a question more in like the film field. But now, BIPOC, the buzzword BIPOC has popped up in the last year. Everything is about BIPOC. And like now it's kind of been putting people in boxes when I think the whole point wasn't to put them in boxes. But how do you feel about that word, BIPOC?
I mean, I have an aversion to most labels just because absolutely nothing fits for me. So I actually don't mind the term just because it's at least something that like races me and places me in a space with other people who are like me. So I like it for that. I don't think boxing people in is good either, but like, I don't know, when you feel like completely lost in a sea of labels and you feel like absolutely nothing fits for you, like having something so clear and like, this is recognizable. I feel like it's general enough, yet specific enough that it kind of works for me. Just kind of like the word queer, like I identify as queer. I think there's a lot of weight, like I'm happy to get into it with people, but I just really love that like general yet specific way of identifying myself among people who have experienced similar things to me, yet like understanding that there's obviously a diversity of experiences. So it works for me.
Yeah, I feel you on the finding the community, like with that term, to be like, okay, I can hop in here, especially like certain conversations, around like when you have to check off a box, you're like, okay, am I Asian? But then there's like South Asian, and you're like, what is this? So like now some of the boxes are just like, Black, Indigenous, or a person of color. I'm like, well, I'm a person of color. Okay, I can take that off. I feel you on having an aversion to labels because, it's all made up. Like all of these like labels that we give ourselves and that have been like kind of like put on us, they're all like somebody else has made that up and has like put that on us. And we're just like trying to like fit in them in these like weird ways and then feel like special and connected to other people, which is fine. Humans, we need to do that, right? But at the same time, it almost makes me want to rebel. Like, I'm like, I don't want to fit in your stupid label box. Like, I'm going to go over here. And then when I'm ready, I can potentially like join that like box that you want me to be in. But that's like my younger South Side self. That's like, go after yourself. Anyway.
That reminds me of the song Southside, Ashanti. Yo, Bob.com. This is the dopest track ever. I'm on the fence on this one. Super on the fence. The reason why I'm on the fence is like, great, now people are paying attention. Yeah, we should be identified by like in the boxes, at least like we're at least recognized. That's great. And the other one is like, it's almost like a cop out, just so that like a PR stunt. It's like, yeah, okay, we have to kind of do this now, and now it's actually going to be politically correct. I'm on the fence on that. That's exactly what I think. I think it's a cop out. I think it's just like, okay, guys, we got to put this on my box so the people don't be angry. And then the other side is like, bro, like, like we're cool over here, like just. But at the same time, yeah, I'm in the middle on this one. And this is what society is like, no? At the end of the day, sure, okay, go within the rules and then break it after. That's how I do it. You know what I mean? Like, it's great that people are recognizing it more, but I feel like there's a lot more to learn, y'all. So let it be for what it is right now, but let us shape and pave the way for what's going to be. That's how I want to do it. You told me I can be a creator. Okay, cool. Then here I am. You told me that I'm not Vietnamese enough to be a Muslim community. Okay, cool. I'll be with the Filipinos. like I'm lost but found. So yeah, sure. So I'm in the middle on this one. I don't really have a defined answer, but hopefully those examples would give an approach of how I see things. So yeah. I don't know where this energy comes from right now.
Thank you guys so much. I think that, Hingman, what do you think wraps up our hour?
I think that brings us to the end. I mean, I wish that we could continue chatting forever, but I mean, it's a beautiful day. The sun is still out. So yeah. And I think this conversation is never over. It's this journey of self-expression and creation, and this energy that we're putting out into the world, like that continues on. So I think although we have to end our chat today, the conversation keeps going.
Absolutely. So thank you to Hingman, thank you so much for moderating this chat. Thank you to all our panelists today. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for being here. And we'd like to thank, again, the Digital Arts Resource Center for partnering with us on this speaker series. This will be available most likely tomorrow on YouTube. So you can check us out on Facebook for that link, or Instagram. You can give us a follow on all those platforms to keep updated with us. We will have another speaker series next month. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night.